We are talking about Lamar Jackson once again because more teams have reportedly moved out on the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, including teams now like the Patriots. The Falcons already said that they were out. The Commanders, Colts, among other teams. And I actually have quotes there. But one player in particular, a famous Patriots cornerback, we have the little tweet right here, had a funny little tweet. Asante Samuel, if people remember, he tweeted, "Lamar Jackson, my brother, trust me, you do not want to play for Bill Belichick." And this is the same Asante Samuel who had a very, very infamous play in one particular Super Bowl. And just in case people don't remember, here's exactly what happened.
Here, time almost ran out on him. 2nd down and 5. Manning hit as he let it go, and Asante Samuel came close to a game-ending interception. He floats it up, but I don't know if he thought that Tyree was going to take it a little bit deeper or should have taken it deeper.
Asante, I can understand why Bill Belichick was not happy with you.
Yeah, so Asante Samuel not very, not on the fortunate end of that play.
Not at all. That was unfortunate for us Patriots fans.
Well, I want to read off some of the particular comments that teams have come across. For instance, we're going to start with the 49ers head coach, Kyle Shanahan. He says, "We got 3 quarterbacks that we're pretty good with right now. We're pretty set on how we've built our roster salary cap wise." On to the next one, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles. "We know it's time for us to get under the cap, and he makes a lot of money, but he is a heck of a player, and I hate playing against him." Another one, the Washington Commanders, the general manager Martin Mayhew. "I won't get into specifics about him. I don't want to sound critical of anyone. He's a very talented guy. He's one of the better quarterbacks in this league. But for us right now, we're moving forward with Sam and Jacoby." Talk about Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. What about the New York Jets? The general manager, Joe Douglas. "It would be disingenuous and negotiating in bad faith if we went down that path, because they're focusing more on Aaron Rodgers than Lamar Jackson." What about the Detroit Lions? Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions. "Lamar's a heck of a talent, but man, we got a quarterback. And thank God we got one. So we're good." What about the Carolina Panthers? I have it right here. The general manager, Scott Fitterer. "Jackson's a great option, a really expensive option, but we're focused on more of the draft picks at this point." The Seahawks, the head coach, Pete Carroll. "I couldn't imagine him being available, and we couldn't afford him." So at least he's being honest, saying the Seahawks can't even afford him. The Indianapolis Colts, the general manager, Chris Ballard. "Anytime a special player is available, which he is, you've got to do the work, but you never know how any of this will work out." Colts owner Jim Irsay later said that teams are always looking for great dynamic players, but it's important to not compromise your future to do it. What about the New England Patriots? A little bit hopeful, actually. Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner. Meek Mill is my friend. He's a rapper, for those who don't know. He texted me saying that Lamar Jackson wanted to come here, but that's Coach Bill Belichick's decision. Very, very interesting, to say the least. And also, we have the Falcons owner also took a little comment saying that looking at it objectively, I'd say there's some concern over how long he could play his style of game, which I have said since this conversation really got brought up. Blank said, "Hopefully a long time, but he's missed 5 or 6 games each of the last 2 years. Each game counts a lot in our business." I would say that's not a bad take from the Falcons owner, Arthur Blank. There's also more teams. I'm sure the Raiders reportedly have pulled out, but I haven't seen a quote about them.
About the Titans.
The Titans have not said anything. The general manager said they're sticking with Ryan Tannehill.
How about the Vikings?
Vikings are sticking with Kirk Cousins.
He's in a contract here.
So
they're going to have to do something.
He's been with the organization for years now.
I still think,
let me ask the question.
Yeah.
Are these teams, among others, I'm sure that you have a list there,
yeah.
Are teams that have already publicly spoken about moving off Lamar, or are they going to regret not pursuing him as their quarterback one?
I think so. Yeah. I'm surprised at the Jets' comment there. They said that it would be disingenuous to get involved here. They should get involved now so they get some leverage with the Packers. They got none right now. Packers are sitting pretty. They can demand a lot. I don't think the Jets have much leverage with the Packers in getting Aaron Rodgers, and they went out and got all these other players. Got a couple of players and brought in the Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator to set the table for Aaron Rodgers. The problem is they don't have him. They got the table, but they don't have the food, right? So I think they're not in a very good spot. I think they should take a look at Lamar Jackson. And I think that the Patriots are kind of, Bill Belichick, I'm sorry, Robert Kraft says that it's Bill Belichick's decision, right?
Correct.
So, but, he has influence on it for sure. I'm sure Bill Belichick's listening to what Robert Kraft has to say.
Hell no, this is Belichick's team.
Yeah, well.
1,000%. Belichick has all the power. We're going to get into it later on.
Okay, but I think that Belichick has an interest in Aaron Rodgers too. And I think he's waiting to see what happens to Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. He's waiting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. If that falls apart, I guarantee you the Patriots will have an interest in Aaron Rodgers.
Belichick moved off of Tom Brady because he was too old. Why move on to a guy that's already...
He may have learned a lesson that maybe these guys can play a little longer than you might have thought a few years back, 20 years ago.
Tom Brady never mentioned the word retirement. Aaron Rodgers went into last offseason 90% retired.
Yeah.
Why would he? First of all, he would also need to spend $40 million on Aaron Rodgers if he wants him. But then he would have to trade him.
The Patriots would have the money.
Well, actually, no, they wouldn't be $40 million. It would be $100 million.
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it in a heartbeat. Because it's not Belichick. It's not Belichick.
Belichick has a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, maybe 5 years ago when he was not 39 years old.
Last year when they played, he talked to Aaron Rodgers twice, once before and after the game. Talked to him. So
he also said how great DeAndre Hopkins was, but they're not pursuing DeAndre Hopkins.
No, DeAndre Hopkins still hasn't signed a deal with anybody.
Technically, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been traded anywhere.
Oh.
So
I think it's still wide open. I think this is all posturing by a lot of these teams, and deep down inside, they're waiting to see what happens. And if there isn't a chance that they could jump in there and make a reasonably good deal for Lamar Jackson, they're going to try to do it. I think that's what's going to happen. I think a lot of what you heard said there is posturing, and that their final decisions have not been made.
It sounds like they have been made, though, but let's break it down to what the team situation is. The Falcons, they said that they're probably going to stick to Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. You could argue whether or not that's a good idea. I think most people say it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
The Commanders said they're moving forward to Sam Howell. That's their decision. The Colts are drafting a quarterback. The Panthers are drafting a quarterback.
What are the Colts going to get for a quarterback at number 4?
They can get Anthony Richardson. They can get Will Levis. They can get
Will Levis is probably what they're going to wind up with.
Very well could. They can get a hooker from, I believe he went to Texas. The Raiders, Jimmy G, or they could draft a quarterback. The 49ers are going Brock Purdy, quarterback 1. The GM already came out and said that it's really Brock Purdy's job to lose. The Bucs, they can't afford him. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers is their point A. They said they're not focusing on plan B. The Lions, they got Goff. Like Dan Campbell said, Lamar's a heck of a talent, but man, we got a quarterback, and thank God we got one, so we're good. The Patriots, they don't pay guys who with the big bucks. We talk about injuries all the time, and Lamar pointed this out, saying that he'd rather play on 100% PCL than just play to play. So technically, he could have played at the end of last year, but chose not to. I guess that's actually more important for him because he's a mobile quarterback, so his career depends on his legs. But Lamar, I think teams are focusing on this. Lamar has played 1 out of 12 potential games in December and January the past 2 seasons. 1 singular game. So you can miss September, you can miss October, you probably could miss parts of November, early November. But when it comes down to it, in crunch time, December and January is the playoffs, and you're not available, most of these teams, I guarantee you're saying, if we have Lamar Jackson, we could make it to the playoffs, potentially the Super Bowl. But then you look at he played 1 out of 12 potential games, you're like, he could get us into playoff contention, but would he actually be there during the playoffs?
Yeah.
That literally happened with the Ravens this year. Lamar helped them get into playoff contention. Then they had to deal with Anthony Brown and Tyler Huntley. They made it into the playoffs. And I believe I think it was one of the running backs that said if we had Lamar Jackson, we could have won that game. You could have actually won with Anthony Brown or Tyler Huntley, whoever's your quarterback, if you didn't give up like a 92-yard fumble return. You could have won with either of those quarterbacks, and those quarterbacks 2s and 3s.
Yeah, well.
So it seems like all these teams, right? I don't think it's collusion because all these guys are moving forward with it.
Let's look at it this way. Let's look at it from the Ravens' point of view.
Sure.
Let's say that they think, you know what, we've broken our relationship really with
it sounds
Lamar
like
Jackson.
He
wants to move on, and he's not going to be happy with us, and that's not going to be a good situation for us. It's going to screw up the locker room and the team culture. So let's trade him. What do we want?
2 first-round picks. Because you probably want.
You don't
more
think
than
they want a veteran quarterback? What are who are they going to play?
Who are they going to trade for?
Mac Jones.
No, why would they want Mac Jones? They literally have they are based around a mobile offense. Mac Jones is immobile, and also the Patriots wouldn't spend.
They won
over
with Joe Flacco.
Correct.
And what's his name was the head coach then too?
John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh was the same head coach.
Right.
So he's clever enough and smart enough to operate with either a mobile quarterback or one who's not that mobile.
Okay, Mac Jones has 2 more years left on his rookie deal, and then you can use the 5th-year option. Why not just hit the reset button and draft a quarterback who's the same attributes as Mac Jones or potentially better than Mac Jones? Then you have 4 years without paying him on a rookie deal. The Ravens side, I'm talking about. If the Ravens get off Lamar Jackson, they could just draft a quarterback who has the same attributes as Mac Jones. Yeah, you don't need to give up anything.
They're not going to draft very high in the draft.
You don't need to. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Max Duggan or Stetson Bennett are going to go far. I see mock drafts where they're going 5th, 6th, 7th round. You can get them there who have the same attributes as a Mac Jones if you want to do the Patriots route. And you don't need to give up much. You may get a first-round pick or 2 in return, but you don't need to really.
So you would trade him. You would trade him for 2 first-round picks.
I would do it. I would do more than that. Otherwise, I would just let Lamar find an offer sheet, and then just don't match it, and then I get 2 first-round picks, and you just take Lamar. Or I do a trade where Lamar has to sign the franchise tag, and then I would trade him for more than 2 first-round picks. Otherwise, he plays for me. If he doesn't play, I could fine him, or I think his contract gets voided if he decides to sit out.
Well,
I don't think it makes any sense.
I think there's a lot left to go on this story.
Of course there is.
I think these teams saying they're out, I think they're still deep down inside waiting to see what happens. And that's right. That's the right thing to do. You never know what could happen, right? You leave your options open, and then you react when the time is right. So we'll see what happens.
I think the most likely option is
he stays with the Ravens.
Well, that's actually the odds favorite. But
they trade him.
If no, it would be a friend. I guarantee you, it'd be. Well, first of all, the only way that they could trade him is if he signs the franchise tag. That's the only way they could trade him. If he doesn't sign it, then he can't get traded.
Well, he won't play for him either if he doesn't sign it.
Correct. And I said this before. I think there's a high possibility Lamar sits out this year. But then the Ravens could just franchise tag him again.
So he doesn't want to sit for 2 years.
He could sit for 3 technically.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: if Lamar doesn't play this year, I don't think the Ravens would go and franchise tag him again. I don't think they're that kind of a team. I think honestly, an organization that's falling apart like the Commanders would do that, but they're selling their team. So and it's going for $6 billion. So I don't think the Ravens would franchise tag him twice. Although they could franchise tag him 2 more times. They franchise tag him this time, and they could franchise tag him 2 more times.
Yeah,
I don't think they would do that, but that is an option that they have.
Seems like they're going to try to trade him, right?
Well, once again, he needs to sign the franchise. He needs to sign the franchise tag first.
He says he doesn't want to play for them,
right?
So he'll sign the franchise tag in return for being traded, right? He'll say, "Let's make a deal there."
Well, now he can be shopping teams for
and you trade me. So who's he going to trade? Who's he going to be traded to?
What team is going to give up probably more than 2 first-round picks?
Probably the Colts.
I think more teams would rather just give an offer and pray the Ravens don't match.
It's probably going to be the Colts.
Well, then the Colts could be drafting a quarterback, or they would just make an offer sheet. Because I guarantee you the Ravens, to get off Lamar Jackson, are going to get what he's worth. More than 2 first-round picks. So I think it would just be smarter for teams to actually go through the draft, then post-draft, send an offer sheet. So they don't need to give up this year's picks. That's what I said in the last show. I think it's smart.
That's why this thing's going to drag out for a long time.
I think it'll be at least 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the draft is just under 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be post-draft. I think what's going to happen is that probably the Colts, the Falcons, there's a report out they're going to stick with Desmond Ridder. I don't think that's a great idea, but I think it's the Colts that are probably the highest. Once again, we have to see what they do in the draft. If the Colts draft the quarterback, they're out on Lamar. Completely out on Lamar. If I guarantee the Panthers will draft the quarterback, they'll be out on Lamar. I guarantee you all these teams, the only one that I think actually has a possibility of going through, genuinely going through, is the Jets if Aaron Rodgers, if that trade just doesn't get done. Or if they wise up and realize that they can get a guy
so if that happens,
for double the price, but more than a decade younger. If the Aaron
Rodgers deal falls through, where does Aaron Rodgers wind up?
Aaron Rodgers would have to be with the Packers or retire. Unless another team would want to jump in or
somebody's going to want him for sure.
Ooh, then he would have a bigger market than just the Jets. You don't think the Commanders or the Falcons or the Panthers or any of these other teams? I mean, none of these teams are jumping on the bandwagon of Aaron Rodgers. One team, one singular team, and that's the Jets. The Packers don't even want him. That's the thing. The Packers don't even want him.
I think that interest in him would increase if he didn't make a deal with the Jets. I really do. He's going to be. He's an elite quarterback.
He didn't look like that last year.
Well, that was 1 year. He's been 2 MVPs right before that.
I know.
He's an elite quarterback. He's still got a lot left. He's a lot better than most other.
He doesn't even think he has a lot left.
He's a lot better than most of the other quarterbacks for these teams that we just mentioned.
He's a top.
You don't think he's better than Ryan Tannehill?
I absolutely do.
You don't think he's better than Kyle Trask?
Yes, he's better than Kyle. Yeah. Well, now it's Baker Mayfield.
You don't think he's better than Sam Howell?
Of course he is. He's better.
Jacoby Brissett.
He's better than all the quarterbacks on this list. And
Ron Rivera coached Cam Newton, so he knows that style of play. You don't think he's better than...
we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, though, not Lamar.
You don't think he's better than Mac Jones?
I do think he's better than Mac Jones. Yeah. Of course he is.
Okay, so there's a lot of spots where...
But he's worth $100 million for a guy that doesn't... Here's the thing. You said Aaron Rodgers has a lot left. Yeah, he doesn't think that he has a lot left. Otherwise, he wouldn't have...
He thinks he has a lot left.
90% retired. He went into the Dodgers 90% retired.
That was all publicity, Nate. That was all publicity.
That's bad press. Yeah. That's hurt. That right now. There's a report.
It got him a lot of press.
It got him a lot of press, but it was bad press because guess what? There's a report out saying that quote there, going to the Dodgers 90% retired, is another. You add on reasons why this trade hasn't gone through. That's another reason why, because now they're trying to figure out how to work around the conditional picks. If some of the picks are going to be conditional, whether or not if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play the following year. So Aaron Rodgers saying that is actually part of the reason why this trade's being held up.
That's interesting.
You could say it was due to a first-round pick, and I'm sure that started the hold-up. But now you're talking about, now this quote's coming out, now there's a report saying the Jets are being a little bit more hesitant about what they give up because they may feel like Aaron Rodgers doesn't even play the following year. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't even think he has a lot left. I honestly think, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers said, there'd be more teams in on Aaron Rodgers if they wanted Aaron Rodgers. All these teams are either sticking with their young quarterbacks who they don't need to pay $100 million for 2 years or $60 million for one singular year, or pay Lamar Jackson, who, according to reports, is not asking for a fully guaranteed deal, but instead is asking for more guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson.
He's not going to get that.
And I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Is he a better quarterback than Deshaun? Yes. Is he worth more than $230 million in his entire contract? I would think so, depending on the years. If we're talking about 3 years, $230, I don't know about that.
I think that's a lot.
But if you're talking about a 5-year contract, you know what? I'm going to even go this. Once again, 6 years, $300 million, $200 million, that's fully guaranteed. That's a perfectly fine offer. And if you look at Spot Rack and Over the Cap, that's actually generally where the contract's looking like. I think Spot Rack has 302 for 6 years, something around that ballpark. But if Lamar,
how much guaranteed?
It would be about $200 million that fully guaranteed.
$200 million.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's not what he wants.
I know he wants at least he wants 231, right? Because there's a report out saying that he wants more than Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed. So it's 231 and up for a guy that's played once again 1 game out of 12 in December and January when you want to be fighting for the playoffs or in the playoffs. It's not a good look. And these teams, I think, have perfect, like some of these teams, I mean, the Panthers, the Colts, the 49ers, I guess. the Bucs and the Seahawks, they all have sound reasons. They're drafting a quarterback or can't afford what Lamar's asking for. I think 99% of these teams are looking at Lamar saying, you want more than $230 million fully guaranteed, and now you're saying you don't need a fully guaranteed contract, so it's more than $230 million for your contract, and you want us to pay, and you can't stay healthy in the time of need. And if you're really clapping back at people on Twitter about how they're roasting you about how you gave up on the Ravens, but you're saying that I'd rather play at 100% PCL. You everyone in the NFL plays hurt. You kind of gave up on them, I would say, at that point. Because there was a report, I think John Harbaugh said around, and I actually want to play the John Harbaugh bit because this is where I think Lamar's losing. I think we talked about this briefly. I think honestly, this is where do we have the clip? We don't have the clip. John Harbaugh said that he loves Lamar Jackson. I think that's where the Ravens are winning the PR battle. Lamar, clapping back at people on Twitter, that's where he's losing it. So this Lamar Jackson's more and more complicated.
His media and the way he's handled the publicity and all that stuff has been a disaster.
Absolutely
it's a total disaster.
Yeah. And once again, an agent would stop you from this. An agent would get this deal done.
That's right. I've said that in the last show. Get yourself an agent.
Yeah. So it's rough. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.